Hello and welcome everybody to this video. Today we are going to see 5 amazing perfect chess traps and gambits in which there is a massive win rate and there are tons and tons of people who have already fallen for it and also more to come. So we start with the first trap or the gambit if you say with the move e4, e5 and bishop to c4. This is known as the bishop opening eyeing on the f7 square. Knight f6 and knight c3, bishop c5 and now d3. We are going with all the common moves that are played in the game. Black plays d6 freeing off his second bishop and now starts the gambit with the move f4. So the move f4 does is it weakens its own king and the f2 square is very weak. So if you were here, think what you would have played with black. Knight to g4, right? Every player here thinks that knight to g4 is going to win directly. But this is going to be a mistake because we play f5. Now the bishop isn't supporting the knight and we are attacking the knight with the queen. But the knight can jump to the f2 square, forking the queen and the rook. To this, we surprise black with the move queen to h5. The f7 square is now attacked and the black's king now becomes vulnerable. Black can defend this attack by playing castle and the pawn is defended with the rook. But now when we get the initiative, we never leave it and play the move bishop to g5 attacking the queen. Now we are going to go on full on attack after queen to e8, knight to d5 going for the c7 weakness in the black's camp. Black plays knight to a6 telling that I have supported the c7 pawn. But we leave the c7 pawn and go for the massive threat here and play the massive move knight to f6. So this is the essence of this position and now all the moves are forced for black and we are going to win the game. Here now it's a check. If the king moves, the h7 pawn will hang. So the pawn has to take the knight and after bishop takes f6, there is a mating attack by the queen and the bishop via g5 or h6. To support this or to defend this, black has to play the move bishop to e3, defending the g5 and the h6 squares. But now after knight to h3, we are completely winning. Our threat is to place a knight on g5. If he does nothing, then the h7 pawn is hanging with a checkmate. If it takes a knight, then queen takes and g7 is a checkmate. So now here he has to take our knight and after pawn takes knight, now whatever black does, we have the stunning move rook to g1 check. The bishop takes our rook and now queen check and it's already a checkmate. So this was the amazing trap in the bishop's opening where black plays all normal moves and then also he gets trapped in this amazing little tactical trap and white manages to trick black. So now let's move on to the second trap. The second opening trap is played against the poke defense when black plays the move d6. We play d4, knight f6, knight c3 and g6. Here black's idea is to fianchet to his bishop on g7 and now we play a sneaky move bishop to g5. The knight is attacked, black 99% of black players will play with the move bishop to g7 and now this was a mistake because we reply with the move pawn to e5. The pawn and the knight both are hanging. If pawn takes pawn, knight is attacked and now here most of the black players will take our queen here, right here, but let's see what happens to knight to d7. Here on knight to d7, we can simply play e6, pawn takes e6 and queen to e2. Now we can regain our e6 pawn and then black king is open. There will be tremendous attack coming on the black king and also our pieces are coming out fast. The knights are out, bishop pair and also the rook is going to sit on d1 pinning the knight on d7. So here we'll have a normal game but a slight edge to white. But moving behind here, what if the queen takes the queen, which will happen in your game? then you should have a smile on your face, because after rook takes queen, the knight is attacked if the knight goes to d7, which in most of the games it will happen. Then you can play knight to d5 and the c7 pawn is hanging. Here you can see the c7 pawn is hanging with a fork, so the bishop has to take the e5 pawn because the knight can't come to a6 because of our bishop. Now it seems that black has defended every single threat, but we play the move knight to f3. Bishop is attacked, bishop goes to d6, and here we have a brilliancy, the brilliant move bishop captures on e7. Here the bishop can't take on e7 because of the simple threat of knight c7, and the rook and the king are forked and the rook is lost. So moving behind, here we simply gain our pawn back and the king is wide open. Black's pieces are sleeping, whereas our white pieces are very strongly placed on the perfect square they had to be in. From here, white has a clear edge and the engine shows a +2 advantage for white, and you can simply win the game from here. So this was the second trap or the gambit you can say, which was against the Pirc defense. Now let's move on and see the third trap. The third trap which we have is when black plays the move d5. This is the Philidor defense, and we can punish this by playing this very interesting line, pushing the queen to a5 and then knight to f3. Now knight to f6, bishop to e2, playing very calm, but now black plays bishop to f5 or g4. Both are a very huge mistake. Here we can simply go with the move b4. So this move is a very strong move because now queen takes the pawn and rook to b1 and the b7 pawn is attacked. Here if the queen goes to a5 or c5, then rook to b5 wins the bishop, and the mostly common move played by black here is queen to d6, then we take the pawn on b7. Here, believe it or not, all the common moves played by black are a blunder. Knight to c6, e6, e5 or pawn to g6 all are a mistake by a simple move, that is knight to b5. Let's see knight to c6. Here we play knight to b5. The queen is attacked, the c7 pawn is attacked, and let's say the queen goes to the d7 square. But now here you can see we take the pawn on c7, and after some moves you can see the queen is going to get trapped on the a6 square, and then comes the thriller move knight to d6 check, and then by a discovered attack we win the queen. So of course the queen can't go to d7 right here after we take the pawn. So let's say if it goes to d8 instead of d7, then knight takes c7, we fork the rook and the king, king to d7, we take the rook check, and after king to c8, then bishop to a6, and now you can see simple advantage. White is winning completely. White has a free rook. Also white has tremendous attack on black, and black is going to collapse from here. So here you can see by playing the simple move b4, we have laid such a disaster trap for black, and I assure you this is a very good trap to play against the Philidor defense. Now let's move on to the fourth trap of the video, that is the center gambit trap. So this trap starts with the move order e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4 and bishop c5. This is the Italian variation, and we play the move c3, preparing to play d4. Black plays knight to f6, and now we strike with the move d4. Here if black goes back with bishop to b6, then we simply take the pawn, knight is attacked, and when he takes our pawn, then queen to d5, and we simply win the game. We are threatening a mate on f7, and also we are threatening to take the knight. So the knight is going to fall, and we are going to be a piece up for the entire game. So of course here the bishop can't retreat behind. So the pawn takes pawn, c takes d4, and bishop to b4 check. Knight c3, putting ourselves in a self pin and giving up the e4 square. The knight simply takes the e4 pawn, and then we castle. Now here black will see that the pawn is hanging, and he'll simply take the knight. Let's say if he takes the knight with the bishop, then pawn takes, knight takes, and queen to e1 wins the knight. And let's say if he takes the knight with his knight, then pawn takes and bishop takes. Here we play a very sneaky move, that is bishop to a3. giving up our rook. Here if black gets greedy and takes the rook on a1, then rook to e1 check. The black queen has to give up itself because the king has no squares for itself. And if he becomes greedy and puts his knight in between, then rook takes, king comes here, rook takes f7 check, king to g8 and rook to f8 is a stunning smothered mate. The bishop supports our rook and there is a discovered check by the other bishop. So moving behind, here black taking our rook is a simple bad move. What if black plays the move d6? That is the most common move played here, cutting off our bishop. Then you can see that black's bishop is trapped and it can't go to any other square than the a5 square. So we play the move rook to c1, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes to a5 and then queen to a4. So there are two threats now to play d5, destroy the defender, that is the knight, and pick up the bishop, or the knight is pinned, so d5 simply wins the knight. Here if black plays the move bishop to d7, then simply d5, knight moves, we get bishop. And if here behind, if he goes bishop to b6, saving his bishop, then d5 wins the knight because it is pinned. So this was a center gambit in which there are many players who fall for it. I myself play this gambit against players who are rated 2000 also, and then also they suffer. So this was a very interesting gambit, and now let's go on to the final gambit, that is the fifth trap for this video. So the fifth trap here is the Smith-Morra gambit, which starts by e4, c5, the Sicilian, and d4, giving up the d4 pawn. He takes and now we play the move c3. He takes again, knight to c3, and what we have done is we have gained a tempo with a knight coming out by giving our pawn. He develops knight to c6, knight f3, d6, bishop to c4 and knight to f6. By playing these common moves that black plays in the Sicilian, black has already fallen for the gambit. And now white plays the move e5. The pawn is attacked, knight is attacked. If here knight takes the pawn, then simply knight takes, pawn takes, and here bishop takes f7, king has a check, king has to take the bishop and then the queen will hang. So here the knight can't take or else his queen will be lost, and let's say the pawn takes, then we simply exchange of the queens. If king takes, then knight to g5 wins away because we regain one of our pawns by taking the f7 pawn. And also you can see black cannot castle, we have the bishop pair, and also we have tremendous activity in the board. From here any player can convert it into a win. So king takes is not taken into consideration, but what if knight takes? Then we go with the move knight to b5, going from the other side and threatening on the c7 square a fork to the rook and the king. Here the king can't come to d7 of course to stop the fork because of the simple trap knight takes pawn, knight covers all the squares. When the king goes inside, knight to c7 is a direct checkmate. So the king can't come to d7, but what black can play is a rook to b8. Here we do not give a check on the c7 square but take the pawn on e5, threatening to go to c7 and delivering a checkmate in the next move. Black has to play the move e6, and then after giving a check, king e7, bishop e3, you can see that black's king cannot castle. All black's pieces are sleeping inside its burrow, and white has tremendous piece position and activity, also threatening to go bishop to c5, checkmating the black king. So this is a lot of advantage and you can directly win the game from here. Black is so cramped that he would like to resign directly. So this was the tricky Smith-Morra gambit, and with this we have completed 5 perfect traps and gambits with white playing e4, and now it's time for you to play these in your games with perfect preparation and beat your opponents, and come and tell in the comment section how do you like the traps and gambits. Also, if these benefited you, do like the video, share to your chess friends, and also subscribe to the channel to get such interesting videos and improve your chess. For now, this was it for the video. We'll meet you in the next video. Stay safe, play chess, and keep learning. Goodbye. Bye bye.